just briefly tell you how I met Milana and then how things came full circle all these years later. And this is relevant to the story. So, okay, years ago, 10 years ago, when I actually joined Barbara's team with Productive Environment Institute, which at the time was Paper Tiger Productivity Institute, back in 2005, Milana was one of the first people that business coaches or online experts that I connected with. And I immediately was drawn to her. Milana, I remember you had done a teleclass on the 20-hour work week, which I believe, I think we talked about this. I can't remember if you did it before or after.
Oh, I definitely did it after. The 4-hour work week by Tim Ferriss.
Yeah. Okay.
Inspired me to do the 20-hour work week. I really could not imagine working for just 4 hours.
Exactly. So the 20-hour work week.
Great.
Yeah. The 20-hour work week was relatable. And it was believable. But yes. So I just remember falling in love with that and the concepts that you were teaching. And you had an assessment program. It was a software program for online assessments. And I remember using that and loving it. So anyway, and I would just see and hear about you peripherally through the years as I'm building the business with Barbara. And then one day, I think, Barbara, it was 2 years ago. Hey, Elaine, you were leaving our retreat here in Carolina Beach, and you were flying off to California to go to some event that I really didn't know anything about. And let me mute you. I'm going to mute Elaine. Hey, Elaine. You were flying off to an event, and you came back all excited, and you were telling me all about this Rich and Milana. And I was like, how many Milanas are there in the world? I was like, is it Milana Leshinsky by chance?
Only one that owns Milana.com.
That's right, Milana.com. I love it. And Barbara said, yes, that's her. And I said, oh my gosh, I know her. I knew I hadn't met you, but I'd been on your calls and classes and, loved your stuff. And so got really excited to reconnect. And so through that is how, we reconnected. So Barbara, if you want to share your experience with meeting Milana.
Well, I just met her when I went to California to Rich. Can you hear me? I can hear me.
Yeah, it's definitely cutting out. So
I better not.
All right, let me log off and go in another room.
Okay, I'm gonna just mute everybody. Sorry, you guys. Okay, so I will share. So anyway, so Barbara came back and she was super excited about this project that Milana and Rich were doing, and so I got involved, and we were really excited about it. And then this leads into actually Milana's story. It was exciting and fun and neat, but very complex and overwhelming. And so which then ultimately led to what Milana is doing now. So I will stop and let you tell the rest of your story, Milana, and then I've got all kinds of questions for you about Simplicity Circle.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you know how you think you're going to reach $1 million in your business and you're going to go open a bottle of champagne and celebrate and be this $1 million woman? Well, that didn't happen. The reason it didn't happen is because I wasn't even aware that I generated $1 million until 4 months later, my bookkeeper told me about that. I was so busy working and so busy doing and going and just working on the next project, and it just never seemed to stop. Like in my business, people who knew me from before, they know that I have this, I push for maybe a month or two and then I hibernate. With this business, there was no room to hibernate. There was no space. There was no white space in the business. There was no room to think, to create, to reflect. It was always go, 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 go. I'm not quite sure how that happened, to be honest with you. It's possible because when two partners are working together, they start leaning into each other's work style. And I am definitely, I was definitely leaning into what my partner needed me to do, to be, what my team needed me to be, what my clients wanted from me, what my market wanted from me, my joint venture partners. And so it became really hectic, chaotic, a never-ending flow of projects, launches, events, programs, team management. I mean, it was like, it just got really crazy in my life. And so what started happening to me is I started getting panic attacks. which I was not familiar with at all. Like I never heard of a panic attack being a physical thing. I thought somebody was just really anxious and nervous. And if you just give them a hug and tell them, calm down, it's okay, then I'll be okay, right? But apparently it's a physical thing where you experience dizziness, shortness of breath, sweats come to you, like vertigo, like it's a really scary thing. And I started having those regularly. And actually when, were you guys in California at the retreat when Rich and I were together and you were there with Barbara?
Yes.
I didn't go to California. I was in Florida with you, but
I was there.
That was my worst experience, which nobody knew about because I was hiding it. But
it's interesting that you say nobody knew about it, but I had a feeling in my spirit. I don't know
really?
any other way to say it.
Yeah.
That there was something wrong. I just felt it in my spirit. And so
that was my experience. And, maybe I would have still been working in that company and with my business partner if it weren't for my body to tell me, get the hell out of there, do something different, right? So sometimes your body tells you then that you're done. And so I was done. And so last August, I said goodbye to the company that I was with and took a sabbatical and didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what kind of business I was going to build. If I was going to build another business, truly had no direction for what's next. And then my coach at that time told me, just do nothing, just chill, go sit in your armchair. And it's so hard to do because I was always on the go. And suddenly everything stopped. I had no business, no clients, no launches coming up, no events, no deadlines, no projects, no products, nothing. That's when I published my blog. And I said, I am on a search for my next big idea. But no ideas were coming to me. It was really scary. And so after a while, I attended a conference and I was looking at the speaker who was talking about marketing and book publishing. And it seemed so heavy, so intensive, like that information felt so complicated. I looked around the room and I knew without, a moment of hesitation that nobody in the room is going to implement any of what they're hearing. It's just so complicated. It's complex, it's complexity. That's when I came up with the word simplicity. And I came home and I registered simplicitycircle.com and started teaching and exploring the ideas of, can you really build a highly profitable business, maybe $1 million business, without all the complexity? And what does it look like? What would it look like if my business was $1 million business, but it was simple? And I started making incredible discoveries about that. And turned out I wasn't the first one. I was just maybe a few years, or in some cases, maybe a decade later. I started discovering other people and other books talking about the same kind of thing that I discovered, but somehow I discovered it later in life and in my business after 17 years in business. And so I'm happy to talk about this today, but the idea of Simplicity Circle is that it's based on the whole concept of simplicity entrepreneurship. That yes, you can grow a business to whatever size you want, to make a lot of money without sacrificing your health, your independence, your family, your peace of mind, all of those things that suddenly started being affected. I used to tell my husband, like, what are you getting from work and you're upset about something? Don't get it out on me. That's your work. Leave it at work. Like, I don't bring my business home. If something is not happening in my business, it's my business. And this is us. It shouldn't affect us. But in my last business, I started feeling the effect, the impact of my business problems in my personal life. Where I would be like, I couldn't not, like I was crying a lot and I was tired a lot and I was upset a lot. So that had never happened before, where my business and my personal life started intersecting in how I was. So looking back now, I'm thinking that I did go through a period of depression, temporary. I think Elaine had a question or comment. I saw her hand up.
Elaine, do you have? Elaine, you raised your hand. I just unmuted you. Or were you waiting for somebody? Okay. I'll be back out. I think she was waving at someone in her office.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, at least you didn't have to get up and usher them out like I just did.
No.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm going to stop to see which direction you want to go in. But that was the beginning of exploration of what simplicity entrepreneurship would look like.
Well, I love it. And we certainly, resonate with it because we use a lot of, just looking at your ebook, which I recommend all of you guys get, simplicitycircle.com, and you can put your name and email address and get her ebook there. It is phenomenal. And a lot of the same language, you use some of the same language that we use as productivity consultants with Productive Environment Institute. Our goal is to teach our consultants to help their clients simplify, right? Simplify their business processes, simplify their filing system. It's all physical in their office things. And so it's tangible. It's very tangible. And what you're talking about kind of takes it to a different step where it's the intangibles, because we're also not just us as consultants, but our clients as business owners get so caught up in the next big thing, the new thing. If you're on Facebook at all or LinkedIn, you're always seeing advertisements for the newest program and the newest guru and, all of these things that we should be doing. And then we always, jump around and feel, I'm speaking from experience, feel like we should be using this tool or we should be listening to this person. And I was loving your 6, what did you call them? 6 complexity traps. Mm-hmm. And I was going through, I was like, oh yeah, we've done all of those. Mm-hmm. 6, let's see where they are. Let's see, you have the simplicity mindset, which is part of, the 3 keys to creating a simplicity business, the simplicity mindset. The second key is the focusing your business on your super skills, so what we're really good at. And then the third is focus.
And it's interesting because when I started talking about simplicity, I realized that the word simplicity means different things depending on who I was talking to. Somebody asked me, Milana, are you getting rid of all of your possessions? And I said, no. Can you see my background? I'm definitely not getting rid of that, right? So minimalism, that was for some people. For other people, simplicity meant almost like a spiritual concept, where to live a simple life, maybe live in the woods or live with a backpack, with all of your possessions in the backpack, and just travel the world. And then there is universal simplicity, which is fewer steps. That's what universally simplicity implies. Fewer things, less to focus on, right? Just less of everything. But then as I started exploring simplicity further, I realized that there's also an individual simplicity, which basically means that simplicity is subjective. What's simple to you is complex to me, and vice versa, right? So to someone like Barbara, perhaps simplicity could come from networking, right? For some reason, I feel like, Barbara, you are a great networker and you're a people person, right? And you connect with people real well. For me, networking is absolute complexity. It is not the thing that I would want to build my business around. On the other hand, I could do a product launch in my sleep. For most people, a product launch is the pinnacle of complexity, right? But for me, there's something in it that I find simple. I just see an arc of content creation and I know how the pieces are going, and maybe in the past it was still complexity. So what's simple today was not simple to me 10 years ago, right? The bottom line is that simplicity is very individual. And so the goal is to find out what your natural abilities are, what your super skills are, because that's where results come with ease, and build your entire business around those areas. I just completed my Simplicity Blueprint program with a group today, just like this in a Zoom call. I had 22 people with me, and everybody ended up with a different business model and a different marketing strategy based on how they scored in their business model assessment and then their marketing personality assessment. You know, we talk about things like, okay, well, there's innovation, information, inspiration, intimacy. Those are the 4 business models, depending on how you score. And then when it comes to marketing, there's also 4 types of marketing personalities: teacher, builder, connector, champion. And then you combine the 2 and you end up with a different kind of business from everyone else's, right? So your simplicity zone is going to be different from anyone else's. And if you don't know what yours is, you're going to push yourself. You're going to grind, work too hard, get results with a lot of difficulty, get frustrated, start feeling inadequate, and probably feel like you're not even meant to be an entrepreneur, right? A lot of those things start come to mind when you are working outside of your marketing style, outside of your business personality. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. You know what it reminds me of, Milana, is one of the things we talk about a lot is I will say to clients, they will say to me, or they will ask me, what should I do? And I always say that's the wrong question. The question is, what will you do?
Ah, yes.
And it's kind of the same, and it's based on the same concept that there are many different ways to get clients. There are many different ways to offer services and things like that. And so it depends on what you will do and what you will do with relative ease. I mean, there's always going to be some challenges.
Yeah.
But if your why is big enough, which I think is a huge part for all of it, is, you know, why are you doing this? But then it's like, how can you do this? And that's very, very individual, which is the reason after 40 years, I still love doing this as much as I did then, because God created every individual and every company different. So it's new every day because it's helping people to figure out what they will do.
Right. Well, and I actually call that your natural tendencies. There's a thing called natural ability, and then there's natural tendency. And It's a little different, but a very important distinction. Natural tendency is like when you come home and you throw your shoes to the right. But then, you know, as a mom who wants order in the house, I set up a little shoe closet to the left because that's where I think it belongs. Well, people are still going to do what they do. They're going to still throw their shoes to the right. So my organizer comes in the house and sees where all the shoes are and takes my little shoe closet and moves it to the right. Let's put it where people throw it anyway, right? So natural ability, natural tendencies really are important to watch for yourself. Is like, what do you naturally do? When left to your own devices, what do you naturally end up doing? One of the things that I end up doing in my business natural is I disseminate information and organize it into teachable framework, like into little 3-bullet slides or something, teaching points, little trainings, right? Somebody who is really a connector or a networker, they immediately start, when you talk to them, they say, oh, do you know that person? You really need to talk to them. Oh, I have this book that you definitely need to read. They constantly connect.
That's Barbara.
Was that the one I was going to say? I didn't want to pick on Barbara again, but I would imagine that she knows enough people and she's such a connector that she will, somehow I knew you were a connector, and you didn't even take my assessment. There was something that I knew that just like it came from me. Just talking to you, Barbara, knowing you long enough to be able to assess that without an assessment.
Yeah, that's interesting because I mean we haven't been together that long, but so it's quite, you know, it's interesting that you picked that out. Right?
Yeah, I don't know why. It just I guess I've talked to enough people of different marketing personalities that I can feel that you are probably a great connector. And somebody who is a coach, they immediately start coaching. I've been in mastermind groups where everybody's different, right? Like somebody will ask questions, somebody will give advice or share some complex systems. And this one lady, her name is Janelle, she's sitting like, do I have your permission to put my coaching hat on? Immediately got into coaching. Like that's what people naturally do. And if you start noticing those things about yourself, what are your natural tendencies are, and how can you leverage them into a profitable business? That's what I help people do. Because even if you know what your natural abilities are, your natural tendencies are, you may not know how to monetize that, how to leverage those things for a profitable business. And so once we figure out what your super skills are, we then start designing all of your products, programs, marketing strategies. If you want to do a launch, we can design your launch around your super skills. If you want to use social media, joint venture partnerships, we can design every area. Because just because you're not a connector doesn't mean you can't use social media. You'll just use it differently, right? I actually scored 0 on a connector, right? I'm a builder, teacher, and a little bit of champion. So connector is 0. And somebody asked, Milana, you built an entire organization based on people connecting, right? JVIC, people connecting. How did you do it? You're not a connector. Well, that's right. I built it. It doesn't mean that I connected with every person in the community. My super skills is building, creating, sharing something, not necessarily connecting with people or people to people. Like I don't naturally come up with names, even though I know a lot of people. It doesn't come naturally to me. Like you would have to come up to me and say, Milana, do you know somebody who can help me with this? And then I have to sit and think and look through my inbox to see, do I know somebody? Right? So when you build your marketing and your product line around what you do naturally, your business grows with ease and it grows naturally with clarity, and you feel confident because the things you're doing are natural to you. And you get results and people appreciate you for those things, right?
Yeah. I think it makes so much sense. And one of the things that we talk about, we've always been really big on when people come into our program, that we don't want cookie cutter people. We don't, Barbara had looked at franchising years ago and was being, advised to franchise. And, she said, well, I don't want to do that, because I want our people to come with what their skill set is, what they're good at, what their passion is, and then combine it with the things that we teach and the things that they would learn from our program. We don't want everybody. We actually encourage people our consultants to specialize in working with a specific type of client or group of people, so that they are doing it in a way that is natural to them. And that's what I'm feeling when you're talking about the natural tendencies. That you don't have to run your business as a coach or a consultant in the exact same way as someone else. You have different styles.
Absolutely. And what happens as a result of approaching your business with this, I call the simplicity approach, is you get paid for simply waking up and being who you are, without judging yourself for not having certain skills, without feeling inadequate, without trying to imitate someone else's skills or models or strategies. Do you know how many people are impacted by seeing someone else being successful, then trying those strategies, trying to imitate those strategies, not succeeding with them, and thinking to themselves, I must be not smart enough. I must be not entrepreneurial enough. I must be not good with that, building a business that way. So there's a lot of self-judgment that we are constantly putting on ourselves when we try to build our business outside of what is natural to us. There's so many materials out there that are focused on changing us. Like the entire personal growth industry says, you need to change, and here's how. But what if you just stop doing that and instead embrace yourself the way you are, and build your business the way that you are drawn to, the way, like I always give this example. It's the best example I can give, because I spent 11 years mastering a skill which I never mastered. Speaking from stage and selling, making offers from stage, right? I started, so my first event was in 2007. And I made an offer. I remember that for $1,000. Now remember, all the people in the room already know, like, and trust me. So I'm supposed to sell a lot for $1,000. I had 10 people buy something out of 100 people, so 10%. Doesn't sound bad, but considering that these are all the people who were already my fans, and I was selling such a low offer, low end offer, I should have sold more. Over the next 2 years, I attempted to sell a program of $12,000, $15,000. Somebody suggested that I should offer a $25,000 program. Then I went back to $7,000 program. I tried all the different price points for 11 years. I have studied with several mentors who taught this thing. And so I would push myself a little bit more. Maybe I would sell a little bit more, but 11 years, don't you think it's enough? In the meantime, I would do a webinar and I would generate 6 figures. Do you think it makes sense for me to continue forcing myself and torturing myself and struggling through learning the speak to sell format? Or should I just get even better and stronger and invest myself more into the webinar format, right?
That's such a good example.
Of strengthening your strengths, not your weaknesses, right?
Yeah, that is.
You may have said this at the beginning, Milana, when I wasn't able to hear. How would you describe your business now?
From which perspective? Like, what do I do for people, or what's the business model? Well,
what value do you bring to whom and how?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that I work with people today is I give people, so I have a program, it's called Simplicity Business Blueprint. And what I do in the program is I give people a series of tools, assessments, formulas that we go through. And every person ends up with an individualized, personalized business model based on their marketing personality, based on their business model personality, because everybody is motivated by different things. Everybody has a different core driver. Everybody has different natural abilities. And so that is the biggest value that I give people right now, is that there is an unprecedented overwhelm.
So is your program, how long is the program? The Blueprint program, how long is it?
At this point, it's going to become a course because I already delivered it twice as a live group. And so my next step is to, turn it into a course that people can go through on their own. And it's a 5-module program. And so that's something that it's the foundational program. I have many other programs and I plan to develop many other programs, but how do you know which program is for you, right? So I'm planning to run a program called Telesummits Made Simple, right? As somebody who invented Telesummit 12, 13 years ago, and somebody who has seen thousands of telesummits out there and many people making mistakes with telesummits, I want to create the rebirth of a telesummit because a lot of people got it wrong. I feel like my idea was lost in translation. So I want to teach it again, and I want to really clarify what a successful telesummit is. But how do you know that you are the right person to run a telesummit? Or how do you know what kind of a telesummit you should create, right? Should you be doing this as conference line interviews? Should you be creating a community around your telesummit on Facebook? Like, how do you know? The Simplicity Business Blueprint will give you the direction that tells you these are your core drivers. These are the strategies you need to, that are based around your super skills. So these are the things that you need to be doing to bring out your highest natural skills.
Is there anything that you've put in place to prevent you from, like, you're being successful at this and keep doing it and then find yourself back on the same treadmill again? Is that anything that you...
That's such a great question. Well, first of all, I took those assessments myself. So I know what kind of things are coming natural to me, and I also understand why I went off track earlier. I think there's one thing that I do with people, and it's called a simplicity filter, which is sort of your one-page statement that consists of 3 questions. And each person will have 3 different questions based on what is the most important thing to me. One of my 3 questions in my simplicity filter is this going to allow you to maintain your independence? So one of my biggest thing in my you can call it values, I call them simplicity filter questions. One of the most important thing for me is independence. Had I known that 4 years ago, chances are I would have not partnered with my business partner, because I need to be autonomous. But the interesting thing is that I probably would have never known that had I not partnered. So it's kind of like a chicken and the egg, right? I didn't know that I value independence as much as I did. I kind of suspected it, but because the idea was so hot at the time, I jumped into it with full force. I merged my current business, my old business into my new business. I got rid of everything else and I focused entirely on this new partnership. Turned out that I need to be fully independent so that I can make decisions quickly, that I can be flexible and where I am zigging and zagging, right? So to answer your question, Barbara, I believe that my simplicity filter is keeping me really focused on the things that are important to me. And I believe that everybody should have their own decision-making tool like simplicity filter, where you determine how to make a decision. Like, how do you know that you should do a telesummit? Several people in my program got really excited about this idea, and then they ran it through simplicity filter that they created and said, nope, it didn't pass it, right? Or how do you know that you need to hire another team member? Run it through your simplicity filter questions. Is it going to pass it? Yes, great. You can start looking for that person to add to your team. Because what happens is we build our businesses around our clients, around our market needs, but we forget to build it around ourselves. So now when I make a decision in business, I put myself first. And it kind of sounds almost strange, because a business exists to provide value and to solve a problem and to generate profit. But a lifestyle business has to start with you. And
that's you can't give to somebody else what you don't have.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, and I certainly don't want to be in a place like I was about a year ago when I woke up and I looked at my calendar and I didn't want to get up. And I asked myself, is this all there is? There's work, and then there is more work. And then when I'm done with that work, there's going to be more work. Is it all there is? And I suddenly just asked myself, why? Why am I doing that? My why disappeared. I didn't have my why. I no longer felt inspired,
So what is your why now? Because I think that is really, really important. So what's your why now?
My why is, well, I definitely want to create a business that gives me the financial stability and even freedom to do passion projects. And my passion projects might have to do with the business directly, or it might have to do with something like starting a music school. I don't know. I've always wanted to start a music school, but I never had the time freedom and enough financial freedom to truly be able to do that. So I feel like if I create that foundation in my business financially, where it's a steady income coming in, not just like a surge of income in January and then nothing for the next 6 months, right? Like what happens with launches. So every decision that I make now has to do with, will it allow me to create a steady income? So things like automated evergreen funnels, where people automatically come from maybe social media or through referral partnerships somehow, and start going through my marketing sequence and ending up, I call it from awareness to sale, right?
What's your ideal work week in terms of how many hours a week you like to work now?
I never think about this. I used to think about that when I was very busy because I kept trying to get a hold of my life, my days. But now, because I do literally 95% of everything I do, I absolutely love. And that's the difference. Before, it would be like 10% I actually enjoyed in the last couple of years. And everything else felt so heavy, just so much in this constant mental ticker. You know how when you watch CNN, there's a ticker going on? That's how my head was, like ticker constantly. Something constantly needs to be happening. And if it's not happening, it still has to happen. I would say, if I were dreaming and say, like, I can't not work when I love my work. So it's kind of hard for me to answer that question. But ideally, probably I would say 30 hours a week. I wouldn't be able to do nothing. I need to work. I need to.
Well, I can relate. I mean, no, because I was working. I just turned 70 years old in December. So everybody says, why don't you retire? And I seriously considered it. Andrea knows I seriously considered it. And I thought,
what am I going to do?
What am I going to do? I love what I do. I absolutely love it. And it isn't work. I mean, when I'm doing what I do, it isn't work. And I think that's the way I've often told our consultants, my criteria was 80% of the time. I said 80% of the time, your business should be such that you would be doing what you're doing, whether you got paid or not.
Yeah. I think
better of the time there's going to be stuff that, that needs to be done that you might not like. But if it's more out of balance, if it's more than that, then I think it's out of balance.
Yeah. I think a better question that I might ask myself is not how many hours ideally, but do I have the time to do the things I love, to do other things that I love? For me, it would be writing music, taking dance lessons, and taking yoga classes. I just spent an hour today with my dance coach, pushing my shoulders back. And so I'm sitting and I'm reminding myself to really create space between my chin and my chest. I know when your coach pushes you back. So because when you sit at the computer, your posture is affected. Barbara, your posture is beautiful. I don't know how you maintain that through the years of sitting at a computer, but I'm worried about it. So I keep, doing my exercises.
Well, I did one of the things I really attributed to, because I was extremely worried about my posture, because my grandmother was literally bent at like that. I mean, that's literally the way she.
So what are you doing for that?
Well, there's an exercise that I've done for 2 decades called Fit 10, and it's a rope exercise, and I'm sure that that's a huge.
What is it called again? Fit 10?
Fit 10, yeah. Fit 10, it's the number 10.com. And
okay.
Yeah.
I will look it up. All of us are working on the computer. Well, I mean, look, we're hunting over, and I'm telling her my shoulders are back, and she goes, no, they're not, and she keeps pushing me back even further.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting.
But as long as I have time to do the things that I want to be doing, I'm fine. That's when I started noticing the difference, is that I started canceling my dance classes. I started skipping yoga. I no longer played piano. And so during my sabbatical, like for an entire month, I would sit and write music. Actually, if you go to my website, milana.com/blog, I finally recorded a piece of music, like in a professional studio. And
cool. I have to go check it out.
Yeah. So I feel like that piece would have never been born had I still been with my old company. Isn't that amazing how things happen that way?
Yeah, it is. Well, I can really, I love the music part of it. I was trained as a musician myself, and I have piano is a huge, huge part of my life. I mean, if I couldn't, somebody asked me today, what would I do without my piano? I can't even imagine life without it. It's such an important part. And I think there's, and this may be something that you will end up exploring, there's all kinds of research and some really exciting things going on now with music, with healing. And there's a wonderful book that I highly recommend you read. I think you would really enjoy it, called Whole Tones, Whole Tones.
Okay, thank you. I'll look it up.
By Michael Terrell, and he's a composer. And the book is fascinating. He talks about how our instruments are not tuned the way they used to be tuned, and how that's affected sound. And
wow.
Oh, I mean, it's just, you will be very intrigued by it, I'm sure. And he created this music, which is now being played in hospitals and nursing homes and places like that. In fact, I gave some to Andrea that she can use when Franklin won't sleep. She can put the music on and Franklin will go to sleep. So, so anyway, who knows, that may be one of your passion projects may be taking your music somewhere in a different. And it's certainly related to productivity. Years ago, I mean, when I first started doing what we called 8-Hour Miracles then, I carried a CD player with me and CDs. And the CDs, there was a series of music CDs that had different names. They'd be called de-stress, concentration, thinking, inspiration, and each of them were played at a different tempo. And so, like, when I would go into the client, they were always stressed, because, oh my God, like that. And so I would ask permission to play this CD, and I would play this de-stress CD, and I would just put it in the background and have it playing. And this was an 8-hour miracle, so that I was there all day. So then we'd eat lunch. Well, then afternoon, you started getting kind of droopy and whatever else. And so then I would play the productivity CD and stuff like that. I did that for years and years, just carrying that
That's
CD.
awesome.
Yep. Oh, she froze. Oh.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you this, Milana. With that in mind, so next week we're having our retreat, a professional development retreat here in Carolina Beach with our team of consultants. We've got about 11 of them coming. Elaine is coming, that's on here. Tracy is coming, that's on here. Marge is coming, that's on here as well. And so they, about half of them have already been in the business for a while, and they're creating and generating income and doing well. And the other half are just kind of new, or they're still in training. They haven't finished yet. And we are going to be working on, you had talked about kind of the evergreen, like the funnel, to be able to simplify client acquisition. So those are the tactical things we're going to be working on. So what advice do you have for this group of consultants, the productivity consultants that are coming here? Their goal obviously is to help other people, other business owners, be more productive and simplify their lives. What advice do you have for them to focus on for their own businesses, so that they don't go back? I don't want them to go back home feeling really overwhelmed with 15,000 new things for them to do. I want them to have a very simple plan to do exactly what you just said, but have an automated system basically that can bring them people that will raise their hands and say, hey, I want to work with you, and not have to go out there and be doing the grind. You talk about the cult of the grind in your ebook. Mm-hmm. So what advice do you have for them to avoid the cult of the grind?
I love the piece of advice that I sometimes share with people who are overwhelmed. The question I ask is, what do you want to go big on? Because you could go big on a lot of things, and that will be very overwhelming. You could go, you can focus on many different things, and you'll be overwhelmed because you're spreading yourself too thin. So what is the one thing that you want to go big on next year? The one thing, right? I believe there is a book called The One Thing.
The One Thing.
One thing, right? Like, what is the one thing? That one thing could be one product, one marketing strategy, one focal point in your business, one project, one event, one networking group. I don't know, something that feels like this is where I'm going to focus my attention. Like for me, my one thing for next year is Simplicity Business Academy. I'm creating Simplicity Business Academy, where it's a one-stop shop for all of my trainings, all of my products, past and future. Because for me, simplicity right now comes from consolidation. I've been in business for 17 years. I have a lot of things to offer, but I don't want to overwhelm people. I don't want to overwhelm myself. So I'm creating this one-stop shop for anything on business growth. And I'm actually going to be looking for guest faculty trainers to contribute various courses on things that I'm not an expert on. But I'm trying to really consolidate. That's my big focus. So what is your one big area of your business that you're going to focus on? For somebody, it might be, my big thing is going to be to get 10 clients and keep 10 clients. That's it. That is the one big thing. For someone else, it might be to build visibility through speaking. And that's all you're going to be really focusing on, right? I call it your unifying strategy. What is your unifying strategy for next year? The one thing that you're going to aim at constantly, and all the projects that come to you, to come in front of you, you can really look at them and say, does this help me accomplish the one thing that I want to accomplish? Or is it going to be a distraction? Because I always have a million of ideas. I am developing software right now. And this morning, I woke up with another idea for brand new software that I literally wanted to start developing today because I think it's a hot idea. And I immediately stop myself and I say, okay, in March, that's when I can revisit this software idea, when the Simplicity Business Academy is underway. So yeah, I mean, you guys are productivity experts, which means that you know how easy it is for people, for human beings to get distracted, right? Yeah. The shiny object syndrome is why you exist.
Exactly. Right? And then we get caught up in it too. So that's why
humans.
That's right. And that's why coaches need coaches.
Yes. But so, you have a higher level of awareness of that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you can pay attention, prevent it from happening, and move forward in a highly focused way.
That's right. That's right.
One thing, one big thing that you want to focus on.
That's perfect.
Like a theme. Like, think about it as a theme. So for next year, my theme is Simplicity Business Academy. Mm-hmm. Yes, I will have other little projects, but as long as it doesn't interfere with my big one, mm-hmm. I'm good. And then next year after that, it may be something else.
I love it. Well, check out when you get a chance. I have to redo the sales page, always tweaking, but we did something similar with the productivity on demand. So check out Productivity on Demand, where we've consolidated a lot of our trainings and courses and interviews into a school.
Ooh, I love that.
We're using the Teachable platform. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Teachable.
Yep. Yeah, I actually signed up to check it out recently.
I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with the training and and how it works. So definitely, if you have any questions about it, let me know.
Is it like an academy website where you can create your own academy?
Yes. Yeah. So basically you have your own school. It's a Teachable school. So you can call it academy. Ours is Productive Environment Institute. So for ours is an institute. And for those of you that are listening that want to check out our certification program, you can go to becomeaspecialist.com, and that is actually one of the courses or programs. It's actually a hybrid of a course and live one-on-one interaction as well. It's not just an online course. There's live coaching built into it as well, and the certification. And so you can get in fact, Milana, that's the site you should look at to kind of get a visual of what Teachable has to offer as far as the sales page.
Which website is that?
You can go to becomeaspecialist.com. Become a specialist. Singular.
Awesome. I'll check it out.
.com. Yeah, that's our homepage for the certification program. And then you can click around and look at all courses and see some of the other things that are there. But that's one of the reasons I love it. I love it as the Teachable. It's an institute, and you can have different classes and courses. And our certified productive environment specialists have mini courses on there as well. So it'll grow. So I think it might be a good fit for your academy. So
For sure. Yeah,
let
I'd
me know.
love to maybe chat with you separately, Andrea, because I'm definitely looking for the right platform at the moment.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help you with that. So, which is so funny. I'll just say this really quick. When I was growing up, I always wanted to be a teacher, and I remember doing my first retreat with you, Barbara, with our team. We were doing a training, and I said, "Oh, I always wanted to be a teacher when I grew up, but here I am now." And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm standing here in front of a group of people I'm teaching. and now the platform that I use is
I'm using a platform called Teachable.
so I'm a teacher and I love it. So I love the people that we work with.
And I always loved teaching, but I taught music. And
Yeah.
so now I'm just teaching business owners, but I'm still teaching.
Yes.
Well, I have to ask, what did you teach in music? Because I taught music too, and I'll tell you my experience. What did you teach in music?
So to be honest with you, I never got to actually teach for real. I went through the internship and then I immigrated to America and switched. But my major was when I was interning for a music school, it was music theory, history, and composition.
Oh, okay, interesting. Well, I did music education and graduated from college and taught elementary school music for 1 year. And I had a headache every single day. And I said, there has to be another way to make a living. I cannot do this. And I realized it was for two reasons. One was I didn't like teaching what I loved to people who didn't want to learn. And a lot of the, elementary school kids really weren't interested in music. But the other one relates to entrepreneurship, which is I cannot stand being tied down. And the idea that I knew where I was going to be every hour of the day for 9 months was like, throw me in prison.
Yeah, I don't see you doing that. So you got out. Well, Milana, I know you've got to take off. We said we'd go to the top of the hour, so I don't want to keep you. But gosh, yeah, I'm glad you found your calling, Barbara. Your passion and is not elementary school children.
Well, Milana, I just want to tell you, thank you so much for joining this. I have admired what you've been doing. I've been kind of watching it and admiring what you're doing. So thank you for taking time to share it. I really
absolutely.
And wish you much success.
Definitely. And I'd love to do it again.
Thank you so much and have fun at your retreat in Carolina.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Milana. Bye, you guys. Thanks for being on. And I'm going to post this in our Facebook group as well. So I'll message all of you to make sure you've got the right link and everything you can get in. Okay. Take care. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.